Okay, look. We don't need to do the whole thing tonight. It is a special, it is a special episode of Generation Movie where we celebrate last night's 96th Academy Awards. My name is J.W. Colwell. I'm happily joined by my co-host for Generation Movie, Rich Dries. We are Hollywood fans. We want Hollywood to have a good night. And I'm going to say this with the most dutiful respect. If you don't like the Oscars, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But last night was a really good Oscars. For me, I felt it hit all the right buttons. It hit all the things that I needed. The in memoriam section, we're really going to have to figure out what's
fucking
wrong.
Atrocious.
It was terrible.
I know. I'm just coming out here swinging tonight. I apologize.
Yeah. Well, no, but that's okay. But we'll get to it. I mean, that's in a series of highs. That is a low that no Oscar producer can get past. For some reason, we can't find I think maybe. What if we just put up the obits? What if we just put up the fucking obits? Just every day,
right.
somebody.
It's only like the last 7 or so years that it's really been just bad. And it's frustrating, because if you go back and you watch like Academy Award shows, and sometimes there's clips online or you can find things in certain places from like 2000 and stuff like that. It's like, somber, reflective music, and you just get the video of, the people. You can have a little bit of a grump and grumble about who didn't make the cut to be in the montage, but they were always very well done.
Norman Lear is the one, but he only made 2 movies, so I understood. You know what I mean? Putting him in the box at the end, I guess. But there was a weird decision to have some people get big screen views and then little screen views and then just names on a wall. But again, we will get to
not
this.
So far away, so we can't fucking read it.
I can't read it. Let's welcome in our commenters first. Jamie Hill, clapping and cheering. Thank you so much, Jamie. It's good to see you.
Hey,
good evening, surprise show. Thank you, Joe. It is a surprise show. We weren't expecting it this week. We're a little bit early.
Tell me about it. I got a message about 5 o'clock going, hey, you want to do this?
You want to do this? Well, we might have other surprise guests, but I wanted to get on. I wanted to get on because every year I remember, I know I look at things, and every year you and I talk about this at some point. Begrudgingly, there's somebody who goes, I can't stand the Oscars. They're a waste of my time. And I just want to get on and state, I want to celebrate my dad. I want to celebrate a little bit of what I was going through last night watching the Oscars. I'm going to tell you right now, and I know you agree with me on this one. The configuration they did last night with the best supporting actor, best supporting actress, best actor, best actress, that should be every year. And I don't care if people repeat. I don't care if people have to come back. I don't care. I don't give a shit about any of that. I just know that what I really truly enjoy, and I think instead of showing a clip, it does cut down on the clips. But the idea that you're in this fraternity and that somebody is talking about your work in a wonderful, or sorority, depending on how you want to look at it, whatever way, either fraternity of actors or fraternity of actors, sorority of actors. There's a family of actors that you will forever be in every obituary going forward. You'll be an Academy Award winner, blank,
or not,
right? Or not, or nominee, right? And I think I really like this format. They had such fucking heavy hitters last night. Great people coming out. Sally Field, Sally Field being on the stage is a good thing for the Academy Awards.
I liked it. I really, really liked it.
Yeah. Only like 3 people are going to get that. Anyway, me, I'm one of them.
Well, speaking of which, I'm sorry to interrupt. Did you recognize the significance, quote unquote, of Sam Rockwell giving the doing the thing to Robert Downey Jr.?
You're not talking about the Marvel significance of of
Well, yeah,
of,
yeah,
of
because
Justin Hammer giving
Robert
giving an
Downey Jr.
Academy Award.
No, Robert Downey Jr. beat Sam Rockwell out for the role of Tony Stark, and that's why I don't want to say as a consolation in Iron Man 2 he got Justin
He
Hammer,
got
but he got Justin Hammer, for Iron Man 2.
and was amazing.
So yeah,
And he's been in a couple other things. But yes, I mean, the significance of who gives who is really nice. The idea that Tim Robbins got, I loved all of that. I love the entire importance of not only celebrating the 5 people that are coming out as winners, right, but also celebrating the idea that you're getting inducted into a fraternity or sorority or whatever you want to call it, and the idea that it shines a light on on history, and then you get great little tidbits like you get the moment with Lupita Nyong'o and Divine Joy Randolph, right, where she talks about how she used her grandmother's eyeglasses and it brought her to tears, and it was like, and
mm-hmm.
and then you had the moment with Cage and Giamatti, which is again the buddy cop movie we all need.
Yes,
And I just think it was right, and I thought, the idea of doing that, and they cut down on the other categories by pairing them up, like sound, like song and score, production design and costume design. You know what I mean? Like I thought that was a really good. There was a really good pace to the show. 3 hours and 30 minutes is about right. I think you should start it at 7 every year. I think 7 works. You know what I mean? Like, because nobody's falling asleep or whatever, or like worried about getting up for work the next day at 11:30 when things are running long. I think they hit upon some things that they need to keep on doing. Would you agree,
yes.
or what do you think?
We started a couple of minutes late
Almost
because
6 minutes, by the way.
Yeah, they were late getting people in, and we wrapped up. I mean, those credits went the longest I've ever seen those credits go, just to stretch it right to 10:30. So they really chugged along. I think almost to the detriment of the show in certain ways, because I was like, I'm the fact of like, give me a 4-hour and 27-minute show. I don't give a crap, because let's really celebrate movies. We didn't get any of like the this year we salute,
we didn't get a special montage. I will tell you
montage.
that is something I also brought up. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I also hate the idea that somebody who's getting a award like the Herschel or the Thalberg is now getting it on a separate night, and the idea that we're doing it on a separate fucking night. Can you imagine Mel Brooks coming out to this crowd? Like, that's the misstep is the director of the Academy coming out and going, at a separate thing we honored Angela Bassett, Mel Brooks. You know what I mean? Like, and you're like, why aren't
Give me 5 minutes of Mel Brooks doing shtick while he gets his award, and then he gets a little heartfelt at the end. I wanted to see that really bad, and then it's just like a little crappy QR code down in the corner in gold, and they're like, quick, if you can get your phone out in the next 3 seconds, you can go watch it online on your shitty little phone. And I was just like, ugh. It was
a misstep. It was a misstep. I think at some point we're gonna get to a point. Well, like I said, I don't know that you go back from the winners coming out to bring the new winner up on stage.
You let it go all the way to 11 for the East Coast and Central Time Zone evening news. Don't try to squeeze in an episode of one of your hit TV series in between the two. Don't use we call this the Oscars the Super Bowl of movies, but don't use like the momentum of of the Oscars to try to get eyeballs onto your TV show.
A show that, by the way, that doesn't need eyeballs. It's doing very well. Of all the shows they could have put out on the ABC network, Abbott Elementary again is a half-hour show that doesn't need eyeballs. It's doing very well. I was thinking, like, first, I love the I think you saw our new host, by the way, for next year. I think he was on the show. If you watch,
you think Mulaney?
I think Mulaney's the host.
I mean,
I
think really for that.
I think 2.5 minutes on Field of Dreams was him saying to the world, I am cleaned up, I am sober, I am ready for this, and I know more about movies than just about anybody. And I can riff on movies like it's nobody's business. Because who knew? Who knew there were ghost rules in baseball? I think he was auditioning. I think it was a very clever audition. He's one of the 4 or 5 people who took really big shots at Madam Web for the evening, which kind of like you know, uh, was one of the big stories. Also, because again, I don't know why we're taking shots on a movie that's clearly on the ground, or like it's clearly knocked the fuck out. We don't need to. We don't need to. It's like shooting
coming from
fish
an
in the barrel.
academy shitting on a movie like that. It's bad. These people are feeling bad that it didn't work. They tried though, and it's kind of become the punching bag. I think maybe a bit unfairly, and to have basically at the Oscars somebody to go.
Everybody. Also, like
Yeah,
I felt Kimmel's monologue was a little long. I felt Kimmel's monologue was a little long. I felt focusing on Robert Downey Jr. and his past had I was like, first joke doesn't hit, move on to something else, move on to somebody else.
Yeah.
Then we're talking about his dick, and it was like, I don't understand. But I guess he's one of the few people
on that out.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of it fell flat. I think, for the most part, the monologue went a little long, and he was losing people here and there, and it was like, the whole thing with Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie, and then you guys didn't vote for her, so don't clap. It was you. I think Greta and Margot are just like, we're good. Our movie grossed $1.5 billion. We're fine. I think there were one of the big moments of the night. Oh my God. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I said we were going to have guests. Are you driving home? Can you please be careful?
Oh! Good Lord.
Just her cackling. You know what? I want to talk to you. Natasha Bogutski joining us, ladies and gentlemen, from rehearsal on her way home in just a black box. It's the scariest thing I've ever seen. But I want to say to you, congratulations on your 17. That was impressive.
Thank you.
Got 17 out of 23, right?
Yes, that's pretty on par, usually.
What'd you get? How many did you get, Rich? Rich,
15,
how many
which is
get?
Good for me. I generally don't do that.
I was on fire last night. I had a fire night, and if not for Lily Gladstone not winning, I would have joined the 20 club last night.
I've been in the 20 club.
Nice.
It's awesome.
I was this close. 19-4 last night for me. Anyway,
I
Natasha,
changed 2 of them last minute, so that's I was really pissed.
Yeah, it was bad. Who knew Wes Anderson was who knew young short filmmaker Wes Anderson was a good filmmaker? Who knew?
I actually did have Wes Anderson on my ballot, and then I changed it last minute. And I kicked myself because that was one of the ones I switched. I was like, son of a bitch.
That's bad. I only missed 4. I missed adapted screenplay because I got lured by the Oppenheimer sweep, which I thought was actually beginning at the right time. Anywho, also again Lily Gladstone losing. I think I want to talk about that with you too the most. This was okay. So a couple things that are happening today. First off, congratulations to Emma Stone. She is becoming the actress of her generation. That goes without saying. 35, 2 Oscars already, 1 for La La Land, 1 for Poor Things. She's become her own producer. She's starting to make her own movie. She's becoming everything that we want in an actress. Now the question becomes, and again, this is like a thing that's kind of started today, and I want to know if you guys agree with this. it's become all of a sudden that she stole Lily Gladstone's Oscar.
She didn't
And but that has been in, like, I've been talking to people in chat rooms all day. It has been something that was very prevalent, that of course the Oscars screwed over the indigenous woman, and I'm like, I don't think you guys were watching this entire season. They've been going at it all season.
It's been
And
50-50. Yeah.
well, it's been 50-50, and the big 50 that Lily did not have was the international or European contingent that really enjoyed Poor Things. And, you know, Lily wasn't nominated for the BAFTA. I had to explain that to somebody today in a movie group where I was just like, she wasn't nominated for the BAFTA. So, like, that was an award that Emma kind of cruised through. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, I think it was a lot closer than you think it was. Yeah, but she won the SAG. I'm like, okay.
I actually explained to someone today that Poor Things is a very much kind of a European style. It's very surreal. It's very absurdist. And that's something that Americans are not all that exposed to in terms of filmmaking styles, which means that in 10 years, this movie is actually ahead of its time. People in 10 years are going to be looking back at this going,
oh, yeah.
Maybe we need to reevaluate how we think about this. Whereas Killers of the Flower Moon is like Oppenheimer. It has a built-in American audience, not just because of its style, but because of its subject matter. That doesn't mean that you earn shit. And I will admit, I loved Lily Gladstone. She gave the subtle performance. Emma gave the loud one. But Emma's was extremely transformative, highly natural. And as an actress, I can say this about that role. It is fucking difficult. It is so difficult to go ahead and shut off shame, regret, and just kind of go to a base instinct place. Because you're so worried about, am I doing this right? How are people going to judge me? You can't think like that for Bella Baxter. She doesn't understand the concept.
I agree with you. I think it's a towering performance. It's a performance we're going to talk about for years to come. It also might be a performance that kind of shifts her into kind of an abstract place where she's headed. Like, she just did finish The Curse. She has this. So I understand where that's coming from. But again, I think the news is that people have not gotten the concept that this has been one of the most competitive Best Actress races in a decade, maybe. Like, it's been tooth and nail all the way through. And like I said, I think you had the same thing happen. A lot of people were just spouting like, oh my God, she got robbed. And I'm like, it was a lot closer than that.
I had Emma on my ballot, and up until we got to the Best Actress category, you can ask Rich this. You can ask our friend Brandon.
Did you change the Lily?
No, I didn't. But I was sitting there going, I'm not sure about this. But I feel like I should stay with Emma.
Voice
I
out of
feel like
nowhere.
it should go Lily. I don't know.
Voice out of nowhere. But I said Emma from the very beginning. I was like, Emma got it. Emma has it.
Michael?
And I did not change.
Was that Michael?
That's Brandon, yeah.
Brandon, I'm sorry. There were two of the part of the special cast.
I would say that this was competitive only in the sense that everybody watching and voting and were invested in this race made it competitive. I think both Emma Stone and Lily Gladstone were very supportive of each other through this whole process.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
You can see it on Emma Stone's face when they announced her name. She was like, holy shit, oh my God, what just happened? She was shocked. She really, I think, not just was expecting it to go to Lily Gladstone. I think she wanted it to go to Lily Gladstone. And she really looked like, so oh no.
I agree with that. I get
that when the dust settles, 6 months from now.
Because I share it with you.
not as a jinx or anything, because I think the reason Emma wanted it, and this is not a terrible thing to say, every once in a while people get roles of a lifetime, and for Lily Gladstone, that is that role. It unless I'm wrong, it reminds me a little bit of like Ben Kingsley in Gandhi, where we're never gonna see her again in Best Actress. You might see her Best Supporting. She might get tear into something as part of an ensemble. But Emma Stone, I think maybe
I don't
wanted her
know.
to win.
So,
I disagree on that. I just don't
Ooh,
think
interesting.
they have the opportunity to portray her people as well as this has afforded her.
I don't know. I think we're seeing more diversity coming into just filmmaking in general. I mean, just a couple, the last couple of years on FX, we had that Reservation Dogs, which was basically
Fantastic.
about indigenous
Wasn't she on that?
and
No,
I'm not sure. I only watched a couple of
I don't think she
episodes
was.
because I just didn't have time to get into it.
It's a great show.
The creator of that is an indigenous American.
I think if she gets back, it'll be for an indigenous role. I like it'll be for something very important. Yes, I could see somebody creating something like Scorsese coming out of the woodwork and producing for her. Because again, she made really good friends with her and DiCaprio. Oh, here's another surprise. We do have an Oscar winner with us tonight. Very exciting.
Oh.
Ooh.
70 years. 70 years, baby. 70 years. He's waited 70 years, my friends. And now he has an Oscar. Also, I just want to say the best footwear in the history of the Oscars. Let's see. Hold on. I got to bring him up. Hold on. Where are my shoes? The best footwear in the history of the Oscars. The entire team was wearing Godzilla feet. They had Godzilla on the back of their heels. Amazing.
I didn't even know that.
Oh yes! Not only did they have the figures, but they had Godzilla shoes. So I had him out last night. He was a good luck charm. It was first off, one of the coolest 2 awards. I think they did makeup and then they did visual effects. And you had Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito in the villain / twins reunion we all dreamed of. Because it was great, and then you had fucking Keaton fucking scowling from the front row, and it was
beautiful,
just surreal in every conceivable way. But yeah, that was one of the highlights of the night. Another highlight of the night that has to be talked about. Again, another kind of thing we need to discuss. Billie Eilish is a 2-time Academy Award winning songwriter. At 22 years of age.
Yeah.
The youngest 2-time Academy Award winner in any category.
Yes, in any category. It is an astounding achievement. It is really hard to not have Hollywood get pissed off with you when you swoop in and write songs for movies. And I mean that in the best possible way. I love music and movies, and it's really hard to not have people angry at you for winning Oscars. Diane Warren somewhere is plotting Billie Eilish's death. Because we're 16 in on Diane Warren. 16 in, I think.
I think that was her 17th nomination.
She
did Diane Warren did get that Lifetime Achievement Award last year or 2 years ago. But
the
that's
Lifetime Achievement. Yeah, like I was thinking about also. We were talking about the Mel Brooks thing, right? The idea. If in the next 4 or 5 years they choose to do Harrison Ford, he better be on the fucking main program. You know what I mean? Like if some of I'm not fucking kidding. Like look, I don't care what award he gets when he gets it for Lifetime Achievement, but he better be there so he can get a fucking standing ovation. because I like I will be supremely pissed about that. Let's see. We also had comments. Hold on.
Can we talk on just 10?
We're getting there. Relax. Hold on. Hold on. Meow from Have Cheatable View. Meow yourself. Hello, Jamie from Have a Cheatable View. Let's talk about this
Folks in the
first, and then we'll get to some other stuff. We can apparently see John Cena, which
That was the best gag of the night.
it was one of the better gags of the night. And what I did like and appreciated from this particular Oscars was the idea that they were aware of the history. Like, and I am sure Natasha knows, and Brandon knows, a lot of these Oscar producers don't remember anything aside from what's in front of them. And so, the David Niven streaking thing is a great Oscar story, right?
Oh yeah.
So I do like that these producers had some sort of semblance of what night we're on, like the idea that Jimmy Kimmel it was subtle throughout the night, but it was there. There was another moment where he said, 40 years ago, 40, did he say 46? Whatever number it was, but Jodie Foster and Robert De Niro were nominated for Oscars on the same night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he was talking about Taxi Driver, and it was subtly woven throughout the show. The idea that movie history is like a the time travel thing that we're talking about, where it's a continuous circle where it just keeps on going, right? And then to punctuate that, when Christopher Nolan won, he really kind of his thing where he said, "I'm just happy that you've allowed me to become part of the 100 years in history of film." Right? I've been on the outside of it, but now I'm involved in it, and it's like, I don't know. Your movies have made $3 billion. You're pretty much on the inside of it. You're keeping theaters open, buddy. You know what I mean? But I understood it, and I thought it was a really great comment during his speech. The idea that movie history kind of moves and evolves, and you're part of it, and you move along with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What'd you guys think of that? And I think it tied into the presenter thing, which is, I think, the best thing.
I did a little research. There's an article out there. I think it was, I can't remember where it was now, that I read this morning about what happened to that guy, the streaker. He moved to San Francisco, became very involved with the gay rights movement. At that time, he was kind of like an associate of Harvey Milk before Harvey Milk got assassinated. And unfortunately, he wound up being murdered himself a couple of years later. I know, kind of a bummer thing.
Showdown, Rich.
But I just found his overall life story, that he went and he was doing all sorts of advocacy for the LGBT cause, right there in the early days.
I'm sorry he got murdered. That sounds awful. But I like that there was a history to the show last night. I thought that was one of the key aspects. Speaking of history that occurred for Natasha.
Yes. Yeah. I'm just I really want to talk briefly about the fact that, and no one's really mentioning it, they're mentioning Clash, which was awesome, but they're not talking about the fact that the Caskens, Simu Liu, Chutigatwa, Kingsley Ben-Aldir, and the other gentleman, I'm blanking on his name, came out and were his backup dancers. And they were just like, yeah, we're just here. We're just here to support our bud.
Well, I will also tell you another fun story I picked up today in doing some research. So obviously this is one of the the bringing down the house moments. It had tons of reaction online. It's one of the most. It's going to be the most meme thing. It's going to be the most YouTube shared thing. But one of the more interesting aspects of this was, throughout the night in the theater, David Alan Grier, who, by the way, great gig for David Alan Grier. Wonderful gig for David Alan Grier. Deserves more gigs like that. But anyway, the whole night they were pimping this performance out, and one of the things that was really interesting is as it progressed through the night, people were running to the bathrooms to make sure, because the way it works is if you're in a bathroom or at the bar and they come back from commercial, you are locked outside of the Kodak Theater.
Oh.
So there was a
Yeah,
you're out until the next commercial break. So one of the stories floating around was everybody started going to the bathroom and getting drinks and stuff and doing whatever as they kept on saying, and I'm just Ken is coming. And so it became like a weird, a bunch of people tried to go within the first hour. Then when it got to 2 hours and it wasn't there yet, it became a really interesting trying to figure out when they're going to put this in the show, which I thought was great. Let's see. How Cheetah says, I miss it, but I agree with you about Harrison. Yeah. Nolan has been inside for decades. Yeah, I think the interesting thing about Nolan being inside or being part of Hollywood is that he hasn't, like, every time Oscars come around, he's kind of gotten shunned a little bit. Like, got shunned for Dark Knight. Like, Dark Knight just missed, is one of the rumors. That's why we went to 10 nominations. Tenet didn't get nominated. Inception had some nominations for technicals, and Dunkirk had nominations for technicals. But everything, up until this point, he's kind of been like,
are all that great.
But other highlights of the night, I mean, is there a better moment than Divine Joyce Randolph winning and getting up and just kind of, first off, I was in tears because Paul Giamatti was in tears for her, and we all
escorted
know
her to the stairs.
Is a good
like
person.
A gentleman, like a goddamn wonderful person. He was amazing with doing it.
I think Paul Giamatti is interesting is like in the Emma Stone thing, right? Paul Giamatti is kind of in this weird Emma Stone place where every time he gets into a movie, we expect him to be amazing. And I think one of the reasons that this man won Best Actor is because, again, we don't know if Cillian Murphy is ever coming back. Right? I mean, is that one of the weird stories of the night is that a lot of the time some of these people are like good actors, but they're not necessarily going to be Oscar-worthy actors forever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna lie, I missed like the last 2 minutes.
I know you were bouncing around.
I'm sorry. I
You're
haven't seen
chatting.
my husband all day. He's learning how to edit.
Okay.
Oh, what are you putting
and we
to work?
appreciate
Putting the man to work, are you?
And I fully support that
I
decision.
think we are.
We were talking about Cillian Murphy. Will Cillian Murphy be back, Natasha?
Yes,
You think he will be back?
I think he'll be back.
Interesting.
And
I don't know.
And the reason why I'm saying
Yeah.
this is Cillian Murphy's been, or Cillian Murphy, is. Are you a Celtics or a Celtics fan?
I hate both of them.
It's the
I'm a
difference
Knicks fan.
between saying Cillian and Killian. That's what I was.
Yeah,
joking.
I'm a Knicks fan.
Anyway,
I can just say Knicks.
Cillian Murphy has done so much great work for years, but the problem is he's often. I think he's a great character actor, and outside of Nolan and Peaky Blinders, he really hasn't had a lot of major blockbustery roles to kind of showcase that you need to be paying more attention to this guy.
There's only one I can think of, and he hates the movie.
That's pre-Nolan.
Right, but what I'm saying is there's only one movie where it was kind of blockbustery, and he has literally had nothing but disdain in talking about it. He hates Red Eye. He hates Red Eye with a passion. I don't understand because it's a great movie.
maybe it was just maybe he just had a terrible time making it to begin with. Now
He didn't like being a
thing.
bad guy, is what he said. And Wes Craven was like, "You're a really bad guy." He didn't like.
But the beauty of Oppenheimer is that not only was a major blockbuster that put him in a lead, a major blockbuster, but it also showcased that this man has serious acting chops. Now that he has a Best Actor win to his name, we're going to start seeing him get a lot more work because people are going to go, how the fuck did we sleep on this man for so damn long?
I don't know. I think it might end up becoming the Muse thing. I think he might become Leo working with Scorsese to a fatal degree where he's not working with other people. In all fairness, I just think that's how it might go.
No, because Killian is he's, like I said, he's the character actor. Leo's the fucking star. Leo puts himself into whatever is gonna make him look good. Killian doesn't fucking care about that. He cares about the art. He cares about the role. If he's offered good material, he will say yes to whoever or whatever comes his way.
I just want you to know, you're saying this about Leo. He could like use the Leo fairy and find you. Just, I try not to say anything bad about Leo. Anyway,
I appreciate. I think Leo is a great actor, but I will not downplay that man has a freaking ego the size of Texas, and he will only do what is best for him, what makes him look good, what gets him accolades.
But what I would say to that is he changed the entire script for Killers of the Flower Moon. He was originally supposed to play the FBI agent. He changed the entire script to shift it. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I understand. I understand what you're saying. I think
they got him more screen time.
Well, no. The script was going to be about the FBI agent, and then he changed it and said, "I just don't want to do like a regular procedural. I want to get into it." And he ended up being the biggest scumbag character he's ever played. You know what I mean?
Greatest scumbag character, but also honest. I'm going to say something right now that is a hot take.
Oh, love hot takes.
I think his performance in Killer of the Flower Moon is actually better than The Revenant, and it's better than Wall Street.
It's the best performance of his career. That's not a hot take. It's literally the 100%. Least attractive and best performance of his career.
I 100% believe that is the best performance of his career, but it is also.
I'm so sad he chose not to do the serial killer movie. I am so sad he chose not to do the first on record serial killer in the Chicago World Fair. What was it? Devil in a White Suit? Is that what?
Yeah.
In the White City.
That thing fell apart.
Yeah, Devil in a White City.
Yeah.
They've been trying to make that for 15 years. Like, somebody's gonna make it.
I just want to see it just because I want to see the apartment building. I want to see the set for the apartment building where people were checking in and couldn't get out. I just want to see the set. Okay, so Divine Joy and Randolph was a great thing. This, of course, was another moment of the night that has also drawn a lot of criticism.
Of course it did. I thought the assassin did too when I saw it.
I think you're gonna get attacked because he's very loud and he's very outspoken. His speeches have been kind of like standing room only. I need to see this, but there were rumors abound that he short shrift Kiwei Kwan, and then of course backstage pictures show them kind of having a blast. But like when he went up on stage, he was, went out of his way to shake Tim Robbins' hand because I think they know each other. And also to fist bump Sam Rockwell. And I just think, I like the fact that he leaned into his past. I love the fact that he leaned in about the fact that I couldn't get a bond. You know what I mean? I couldn't get a bond for the longest time. I was only on Iron Man, for $2 million. You know what I mean? And so I like that he leaned into it. I think it's interesting when we get people who go.
He acknowledged it. What I didn't like was, and he didn't like it either. I will admit this. I could tell, and it's really hard to tell when Robert Downey Jr. is just goofing and he's just like, it's like water off a duck's back. He was not thrilled with the high joke in the opening monologue coming from Kimmel.
We were talking about that. I think Kimmel stayed on that a little bit too long.
It wasn't just cringy. It was downright fucking rude. And I understand it's okay to make jokes about the actors and you got to have a thick skin and all that, but you're there. You know he's probably going to walk away with the Oscar because he swept all of the other awards on the way here. And is it really okay to talk about his really low point in his fucking career where he couldn't get work, and probably half of the people in the audience thought that he wasn't worthy of getting work at that time? It's in poor taste. It really is.
Yes, but on the flip side, though,
he has talked about
it. Whenever Kimmel would throw a joke at Spielberg was game. I mean, the whole joke about sending nudes to Spielberg. And where were those nudes going? They cut to a shot of Spielberg. It was not scripted for him to start pointing at himself. Spielberg just kind of leaned in and showing himself off as the goofy elder statesman now of cinema, I guess. And honestly, put Spielberg in the front row from now on. Put him over in Jack Nicholson's old chair, whatever, and let him have a little bit of fun. He doesn't need to prove anything by winning an Oscar. He just goes to be there and have a good time.
I said it last night. The GOAT was presenting Best Director. The GOAT.
I enjoyed Spielberg's performance last now more than probably every movie he's made for the last 20 years.
That's disrespectful. Wow. Absolutely disrespectful. Because in about 4 or 5 years' time, West Side Story is going to be recognized for the unbridled
I love
brilliance.
West Side Story. I put it up there, and I think that.
Well, then you just insulted West Side Story, Miss Hot Take. You just insulted West Side Story.
I think his West Side Story is on par with the original. I just liked his.
I think it's better than the original.
It's better.
Well, no, but what I'm saying, I don't know. I think Spielberg is an elder statesman that understands the importance of film history. He understands the importance of welcoming people in. I love the idea of Spielberg giving Nolan the award as like, hey, try to take my records, kid. Good luck. Good fucking luck. My string was pretty unmatched in the 80s. Good fucking luck.
Brandon.
But so that was another thing that happened. We do need to talk a little bit. We were hitting on this earlier.
Thank you.
This particular story. This is the screen and the weird dancers that were like part of the in memoriam segment with, and then I think the tenors came up. I don't know what the fuck was going on during this. I don't know how to fix this. I feel like we need to have some sort of
simple thing you need to adhere to here. Never make it about the performer who's providing your music. I don't want to see them in a shot except maybe right at the beginning and right at the end. You don't need dancers. This isn't a fucking dance number. I recognize that, it can be kind of reflective. You can do a sad, reflective dance. But I think it distracts from the idea that we're here to honor, the creative people we lost through the year. And having stuff going on over here, just give us some, like I said before, give us some sad music and play the video montage. Don't try to throw it around on different screens. Don't throw it around on different screens and then shoot the stage from all the way back at the auditorium. So I'm having to squint at my TV going, oh, okay, that's Matt Perry. Oh, who the hell is all that in that list in the circle at the end? They've done it right before, but it's just the last several years they've really kind of stumbled badly with it. And
I think the last really great in memoriam was Lady Gaga. Thank you.
I don't know. And you're right. I think maybe we had a better idea of how to deal with it. I don't know if it's something as simple as at the beginning of the year when the producers take over for the Oscars. I do want to say I did notice somebody's joining us tonight. That's part of the network that has got a show that's in development from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I want to welcome John Dugan joining the show tonight, or at least watching the show. Thank you for joining us, John Dugan. Film,
Hi, John.
horror movie legend. Thanks for coming.
Pleasure.
We appreciate you on the network. I don't know what, and here's the thing though, like everybody has an idea about it, and like I said, last night was just fucking weird. It was weird from beginning to end. I loved how it started with the 3 screens going with different people in, like Close Encounters time, where it was like, kind of hitting on the screens, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be cool. We're gonna do a wide shot. We're gonna get everybody kind of like bonking into the different, and then it just went weird because some people were on the big screen, and then others had the little dangle screens that they were using for the nominations as well. And then finally, it just kind of the close up with all of the, not even a close up, just a wide shot of all the names going into the wall. And it was just, I feel like this is something the Oscars, of all the things they need to get right every year, this is the one thing where I think more people bitch about this and how it's handled and how are we not getting this fucking right? How do we miss somebody every year, right? Or how does that person not make it in? How does, all this shit
I
that
was
happens
not
every year.
pleased that the opening one was Michael Gambon, and I could barely fucking see him.
Well, and that's like
that
everything.
Is Dumbledore. That is for a whole generation of people. He is like Iroh from Last Airbender. He was our grandfather. He was our mentor. He instilled courage and
Michael
wisdom.
Gambon. I think it's funny. You think he's Dumbledore, and I think he's I think he's the patriarch from Gosford Park. Like that. Like that's just a weird movie. That's just a weird movie thing right there. Like I remember him being a vicious patriarch.
Hollow right around the same time,
but I think of all these things, I think somebody's got to get this right. Like somebody, I don't know if it's like when you get the producer credit, you have somebody go and you look at a newspaper, go over the last 185 days, the last half year, just get everybody out there. I need, whether it's full obits, whatever you want to do, but we got to fix it. It's got to be fixed.
The weirdest
hire the people who do it for Turner Classic Movies, because TCM nails it every year. Every year, I'm a weeping, puddly mess watching their year-end tribute to people who have passed, and just say,
maybe
hey,
that's the connection.
Maybe that's
great.
The Can connection. You come in for a version for us? Boom.
At that point, you'd find out that Zaslav is charging the Academy or something for a tax rate.
I think
so it doesn't come right.
The weirdest part of the in memoriam for me was I think there was something going wrong with the mic.
Oh, with the singing? I was the interesting. It's interesting. Like I was so flummoxed by the changing of the screens that I didn't even care about the singing or the dancing. I was like, I midway through I realized there were a bunch of waifs that were dressed in like weird like Pompeii outfits, like just weird. It was weird for me.
I could have done without the dancing. Andrea Bocelli nailed it, but that is his song, "Time to Say Goodbye." I've been listening to that since I was a kid. My mom's Romanza album would go missing, and she would go, "Natasha, give me my Andrea Bocelli back." I'm like, no. The gentleman who was
I do love that every time you're on the show, no matter when you come on, and I love it, kid, is that it's some sort of like a look into your weird psyche. It's just
the other album
I love it.
Go missing all the time was Rammstein's Live aus Berlin. Try to explain that one. Rammstein and Andrea Bocelli at the same time, but the gentleman who is standing next to Andrea Bocelli is his young son Matteo, who is training as well to, I guess, follow in his father's footsteps. Andrea nailed it. His son was, I think that was the biggest, most widely.
I can imagine the nerves. it is the
There
one
was a
part of
lot
the
of
Oscars that everybody sees. Like, it's the one part of the Oscars that on a regular basis is like the most talked about. Of course,
But
thing that
there was something wrong with his earpiece. He kept fiddling with it. There was something wrong with the
Yeah.
music itself.
there was
which
something
also did
wrong.
not
It
help.
it was terrible. Maybe it was the ghosts
I
just
think folks,
fucking with it. So last night also the bigger story of the night, of course, is Oppenhammering, right? Right? You know, not only drinking, but Oppenheimer's the big winner. Although again, I think you're correct in saying this might be one of those years where 5 years down the road we look at Poor Things and go, is it better than Oppenheimer? Is it a better movie? It's certainly weirder in every conceivable way and amazing and
Well,
absurdist and beautiful and, you know, wonderful in every conceivable way. And I'm not just saying that because there's a lot of nudity. I just want to point that out. Got to get it out there.
as I did say, also, it has a built-in audience for historians, for physicists, for people who just look at Oppenheimer and, yes, he may have given us the atomic bomb, but he thrust us into the modern age in which we live in.
Well, it became a proxy fight last night. It became a proxy fight between Poor Things and but what I think needs to be taken away. And somebody was asking me today, like, what movies did you enjoy this year? And I was like, look at the best picture list. All of them are really good movies. It was a really great.
But as I was explaining to someone earlier on today, it doesn't matter if you have a good script. It doesn't matter if you have a good, good performances. You can have good technical stuff, and the other stuff is just a little wonky. They all have to mesh together. The gears need to be oiled, and they all need to work together as a single unit. Oppenheimer not only found its base. Excuse me. Just like Barbie did, it had a certain base that it was working with. You also have Nolan behind it, which is a big thing. You're also running into.
Let's not forget about Emma Thomas, by the way, a stalwart producer right now, one of the great.
Very much so, but you're also dealing with the idea that you have great performances. Your tech side is flawless. But I think this was a legacy win as well. Oppenheimer is not just the best film of this year. And that's the thing. People are going, oh my God, this movie will be forgotten about in 10 years' time. That's fine. They don't care about longevity. They don't care about rewatchability. If that was the case, the Marvel movies would have won every single year since the first Avengers. That does not matter. It is how does everything that you have, all the different departments and everything work together as a single unit to create a quality piece of art that maybe 10 years from now is going to be dated. But for this year, amongst these people, amongst these nominees, this is the best. But
I think
it's capturing the moment.
I think it does capture a moment. I also think Nolan gets a lot of props for how he runs his predictive. Him and Emma Thomas running their predictive productions is pretty astounding in what they do. The people they bring, they get the best craft, the best services, the best best gaffer, best boy you can find. I think that's one thing. I think the other thing that we're going to look at with regards to this year is, again, I think overall quality. I think this year, one of the biggest mistakes, and it was something that also came up in that film thing I was telling you today about the Lily Gladstone thing. Something came up about why the Zone of Interest won Best Foreign Film, and I'm like, Zone of Interest won Best Foreign Film because of the archaic way we do international films. If France puts up Anatomy of a Fall wins Best Foreign Film. But because they didn't, it's like the weird documentary rules, right? Every year we get, you hear these horror stories about like what documentary is going to make it into the final five for best documentary at the Oscars. Mm-hmm. It's a horror show. And like I was saying, there are a couple movies that were left out of the process, either by their home countries or whatever. But Anatomy of Fall is a pretty great movie. Zone of Interest is an amazing first feature. I'm so happy it won for sound because that was the one thing I came out of that movie. I think I called you, Rich, and said it was the most. It was the
What
most.
did you just say?
What?
Did you say Zone of Interest was an amazing first feature?
Isn't it Glazer's first feature?
No, it's his
No.
second.
Okay, I'm sorry. My mistake.
Under the Skin with Scarlett Johansson.
I'm sorry.
What
My
is it?
mistake. That is true. It's something I
Yeah.
read. I'm sorry.
Which is also
But a
amazing.
really great movie.
And it's all,
I came out of Zone of Interest and basically said to Rich, the only thing that I came out of the movie, because it's just a weird Holocaust movie in a sense, because it's about the banality of evil. But I told Rich, I'm like, the sound was astonishing. It was like,
this is
it
one
was
of
like,
those times where they, we say, oh, this one editing because it had the most editing, not the best editing. This had, this one sound because it had the most sound work. And
no, it's unique.
this one
It was
did not have
unique.
the most sound work. It had the best sound work because it needed to delineate every specific little small noise because it's very quiet. It's a very contemplative movie. So anytime, you're just seeing two people having a quiet conversation and then you hear gunshots from over the wall or something like that. It's
or
super,
fire burning.
super to the overall story that Glazer's telling here. And I have actually, I think that was one of the ones I actually called on my sheet. I don't have my sheet here in front of me. And I was just like, yes, because it's not the most, it's the best sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
I 100% agree.
so, but Anatomy of Fall is another movie, won screenplay. American Fiction won, So we had a nice eclectic mix while also having Poor Things kind of sweep through some of the technicals and Oppenheimer sweep through some of the technicals. I thought it was a really good mix. And somebody asked me, what were the good movies last year? I'm like, you look at this 10, it's a pretty Holdovers, it's a pretty solid 10 movies that we can look from this year and go,
Yeah.
Hollywood had a pretty good year, right? I mean,
Right.
you know what I mean? And I just think it's one of those things that came out today where everybody was like, some people are like, oh, Hollywood isn't like it used to be. And it's like, I don't know. This year they were biopics. The Holdovers is like a 70s, 70s comedy. You know what I mean? Like, this is the year for you to get back into it. If you were watching these Oscars this year, was a good year to watch. I
100% agree. In the past couple of years, there's only been maybe two where I was like, I have to see everything. This year, I was not able to see everything, but I sure as hell fucking wanted to. Because this year, and I have this argument as well with someone recently as well. They're like, there is nothing from this year that was actually good. Oppenheimer, maybe. Barbie was crap. This, blah, blah, blah. I'm like,
yeah, those people I absolutely want to punch in the face.
No, that's not.
I absolutely want to punch those people in the face.
It was. They were like, I don't even know the other films. What the fuck was that Poor Things? What the hell was that? A fever dream?
I
was like,
can I tell you a funny story? Somebody asked me what I really liked. It was all right yesterday. One of the things that came up a lot yesterday for me, and Natasha, I don't know if you know this much, but I'm going to bring it up because it's so people think of me with the Oscars, okay? And this is my dad in the Scranton Times. Now, what you'll notice down the bottom is he picks Network to beat Rocky. But also on this upper corner here is a whole diatribe about meat. And so every year I think about my dad. Every year it comes up where people, the Oscars come up. And so I had a couple messages from old friends from high school and things. And like one of the things she asked me, she's like, did you see Poor Things? And I'm like, yes. And she goes, am I weird for loving it? And I'm like, no. And she goes, my husband and I watched it and we weren't expecting it. And she goes, but I was wondering would you have recommended it to me? Because she's a mom and everything. I'm like, I don't know that I would have recommended it to you, but you are smart enough to assemble the amount of, amazing in that movie and be able to get it. She goes, I got it, but I was thinking of you yesterday, and I wanted to let you know. And I was like, well, Melissa, that is one of the sweetest things anybody's said about me recently. So I appreciate you, but I appreciate my dad. This article, he talks about raising me right, watching the right movies like Lawrence of Arabia and The Searchers, and so
And it's
that.
great that she just kind of found the movie herself, not on a recommendation, too. So that always makes me feel there's hope for
yeah, there's hope for the future. Yes. But yeah, I mean, when people say to me it wasn't a good year, I'm like, it was a pretty good year. There's a lot of great films. Anatomy of a Fall is a movie that I watched, I bought because it was cheaper to buy it than to rent it, and I bought it, and I was like, I was Sandra Hüller, and then a couple weeks later, I walked into Zone of Interest, and I'm like, holy shit, what a year she's having.
This year has been just absolutely incredible for film. We have had stories from people of color. We've had stories for diversity. We've had fantastic international films. We've had great European style films. We've had major blockbusters with incredible quality. You have movies that 10 years from now, people are going to be studying in the classroom. Honest to God, I think that Barbie and Poor Things is an incredible double feature when it comes to feminism. If you're taking your kids and
I agree.
If you want to teach them out of the gate what feminism is, you start them with Barbie. And as they get older, in psychology classes,
how old? Like classes, 7? Like you're talking like 22 for Poor Things. I'm gonna be honest. I took a friend who's like on the network, and I took him to Poor Things, and that poor child. He's only 25. He's a nice kid. Doesn't want to watch a lot of Oscar movies. After the movie's like, I don't know what I'm feeling right now, and I broke him, and I had to take him home and drop him off. But he's one of my best friends. But that was a tough movie for him. But you're right. There were so many things, so many eclectic little movies that kind of like American Fiction and The Holdovers and all of these great, Killers of Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Big,
all these movies this year could be taught in a classroom. They could be studied, and usually you get one or two. And 20 years ago, I really need to say this because I've been thinking about this all day. And when you asked me to come on, I was just like, if I can, I need to really get this out. So 20 years ago, your major film of the year was also a very high quality film. So you're looking at things like Braveheart, you're looking at things like Titanic and Gladiator, because they didn't have as many movies saturating the airwaves. I mean, it may have been maybe 60, 70 movies in that year, 20, 25 years ago. Now it's so many rich, and I can't even keep up, and we do triple digits every year. And amongst that, to have 10 films that you can look at every single one of them and say, you know what? This year in this classroom, we're going to, in a film class, in a women's studies class, in a class about, say, person of color or indigenous or anthropology or whatever it may be. You could look at most of these films and say, I can study every single one. We're going to do just a whole course, a whole semester on just the movies that came out in 2024 that were nominated for Best Picture.
2023. Save your excitement about 2024. We're running on fumes right now. We have a couple movies coming out in March. But what I would also say to you,
2023.
I know, I'm just playing with you. I'm just playing with you.
And because of that I think alone shows the power of the films that were nominated.
That's absolutely true. I also think one of the subtle things that was running through last night was Hollywood likes to promote itself. And I thought it was really great that the pairings last night were all about what's coming out. So you had the Barbenheimer, the Ken and Kitty moment with Gosling and Emily Blunt. That was Fall Guy. Very funny though.
We got
About
Furiosa.
Oppenheimer and Barbenheim. Barbie and Oppenheimer going head to head. You had Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, who promoted, gave this the music awards, of course, promoting Wicked. I just think it was a really good night in which Hollywood kind of put forth all of these things that are great. And I think one of the things that pained me the most, not only that people weren't, although I will say, news out of Variety is Oscar ratings up 19.5 million viewers last night, 3.8 rating in the 18 to 49 demographic.
About a million over last year.
About 700,000 over last year. A little bit down in the key, but that's okay. And again, the importance, Rich. Let's talk for a moment of the importance. And again, she wasn't here for this, so let's talk about the importance of a host, and let's talk about why next year it's John Mulaney. Aside from,
I have to give Mulaney a lot of credit, considering all of his personal troubles in the last couple of years. He has done an incredibly good job of still not only keeping his profile up, but making people understand and still be willing to give him another shot. I give him a lot.
Oh well, when you say he's had, it's interesting. I think it's interesting from a feminine perspective that he's had a hard time. You're right. Everybody is really tough. Divorcing your wife and falling into the not so gorgeous arms of Olivia Munn. It's super tough.
But you're forgetting about the cocaine black.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not forgetting about that. I mean, I know they had the intervention and all that other stuff, but I think it's interesting. I think for me as a comedian, I really enjoy, and I think last night, and I was telling Rich earlier, that whole sequence where he's talking about sound and he makes the joke, if we don't have sound, you're going to need a bigger boat. We don't have, I'll have what she's having, and we certainly don't have, again, the Madam Web joke that again was like shooting fish in a barrel. But that 3-minute sequence about Field of Dreams was just amazing.
So
what was that?
So that was kind of bullshit. And he uses the quote that everybody was bagging on from the trailer. That's not actually in the movie, which again I thought was kind of bullshit. I think Kimmel's okay. There are moments though when it really feels like he's just making the Oscars an extension of his own show. When Guillermo is a fun presence on his own show, that's fine. But to drag him along to hear it felt.
I'm okay with him on the carpet. I'm okay with Guillermo on the carpet. I don't think he should be in the fucking theater.
And throwing a joke that addresses his comedic rivalry with Matt Damon into the end credits, where you see the dog from Anatomy of a Fall taking a piss on Matt Damon's Hollywood Walk of Fame star.
I was expecting that joke. I actually was expecting it. You want to know why? Because Damon wasn't in the theater. He wasn't there for Oppenheimer.
Yeah. And he wasn't there to be actually beaten on a person.
There for Killers of the Flower Moon. So I was expecting that joke. I actually thought it was going to come a hell of a lot sooner. And once the awards were done, I was like, there's no way he's letting it slide. And there
I think Kimmel's long in the tooth as a host. I think we need some new blood. I think Mulaney is probably going to be on the top of most people's lists, and we'll see what happens. Apparently he had a really good night at the Independent Spirit Awards, so that might be the other kind of audition tape. Let's do this. Because we're getting close to an hour and 50 minutes, and that's a little bit too much for a special. What I'm going to say is in summary, go around. We'll start with Natasha. We'll go to Rich, and then come to me. 2023, the year in films and the Oscars will be remembered for Natasha.
Barbenheimer. The reason why people tuned in.
I'll get, yes, we're going to talk about that too. Rich, what do you think?
Do we have time?
Okay, well, yes, obviously this was the end point of the whole Barbenheimer experience. And we saw a lot of wins for Oppenheimer. We saw an amazing performance for I'm Just Ken. I think we're also going to see, it's going to be remembered for people rooting for some underdogs like Divine Joy Randolph, excuse me, and Lily Gladstone. And even though Lily Gladstone didn't win, she had a tremendous run through this season, and I think people are going to remember that. They're going to remember that Emma Stone ultimately was very supportive of her, and so I think that's going to be there. People are going to, I think, search out some of these films that Poor Things didn't do that great at the box office, but I think some people are now going to search it out, I think, and go, okay, let's check this out. Some people are going to go, oh, what was that movie, that Holdovers movie? Let's go check that out. Thankfully, Holdovers did not win its screenplay category because that would have been awkward given the reportage beginning of the weekend that said it looks like, and I haven't had a chance to, I have a copy of the script. It's allegedly plagiarizing. I haven't had a chance to kind of go in and read it yet.
The name of the movie,
but that really would have been
Frisco. Frisco is the
I
name.
think that's absolute bullshit.
Yeah, from the 2013 Blacklist. I have a copy of it, but I haven't read it yet. So I think there's a lot of small stories to take from this year, and it's going to be exciting. Natasha?
I think that holdover thing is fucking bullshit. And you want to know why I think it's bullshit? They had a month and a half to speak up. They waited until the night before the Oscars.
They were going through the whole process all the way through January, February. Yes, the timing looks really shitty. But that's also maybe because the Writers Guild wasn't responding quickly enough.
There's a lot of cogs in the wheel that didn't work.
Yeah. Now, on writer Twitter, on screenwriter Twitter, a lot of screenwriters are saying, looking at what is being presented in that PDF that's attached to the Variety reportage, comparing the two screenplays and stuff, they're like, it's really kind of broad, undefined similarities. And a lot of writers were basically saying, look, I don't know how this lawyer talked this guy into thinking he had a plagiarism suit, but I don't see it. How this plays out, of course, over the next couple of months at least, if hopefully it doesn't drag on for years. It'll be interesting to watch. But I think because the original writer had submitted this piece to Todd, to the director, like twice. It's going to, there might be some impact on the spec market going forward and the development process going forward. Maybe. That is, if it becomes a big thing. If it winds up just getting dismissed, then probably not. But yeah, it is something everybody should probably just keep an eye on slightly, at least a little.
Yeah, slightly keep an eye on it. I think 2023 is going to end up becoming one of the better years for film, just from the sheer volume of people that came out of the woodwork to make movies that are great, right? And we have two budding auteurs that are kind of like, they look to me to be the guys that are going to be leading the charge, right? The idea that we're going to be, in a Nolan and Yorgos world for the next 5 to 10 years, where they're kind of going to be competing. And I think that's really going to happen. I also think the win over Lily Gladstone, I don't think is going to be negative for her career. I think Emma Stone is smart enough and wise enough. The way she's kept herself throughout this entire process has been spectacular. And what I would
think
also
Nolan's
say
gonna settle down
is
for
that
a
I
bit.
think
He's got what he wanted.
Emma Stone, I think, is actually going to become one of the people, one of the forces in Hollywood that I think her time is now to kind of strike while the iron's hot. But
agree.
I don't want to hear anything from people saying Hollywood isn't talented or the movies weren't good. Go find the good movies; they're there. And this Oscars was a perfect representation of movies. It's not a typical Holocaust movie, but Zone of Interest is really interesting. American Fiction has a lot to say about the racial injustice in this world, and is really funny. You know what I mean? The Holdovers, spectacular, an amalgam of a movie. When you say we don't make them like we used to, The Holdovers is one of those movies that is literally like the one we used to make. And then you
Yeah.
have movies from
It's
great
literally
directors.
dated.
It really is. And literally we had movies from great directors that produced amazing things that are uniquely their own. Scorsese making a western that's also a great crime drama, and then Oppenheimer's everything Christopher Nolan loves about movies, but also the first time he's actually, as a Tin Man, had a heart. Like I look at Christopher Nolan movies, they've always hit me kind of like they bounced off, but
And
this
he's
one
like
didn't.
Kubrick. He's style over substance.
No, but Kubrick, I always felt Kubrick's problem wasn't that he was, I know, I think Nolan just does, like, I think he's emotionally cold, but it turns out that if you,
It's all about the themes. It's all about the intelligence
right,
of the piece. He doesn't really
and then,
delve into the emotion.
you have all these great movies, you have Yorgos making Poor Things. There are great movies. Hollywood's in a good place. The Oscars are pretty good this year. We got shit we got to fix, but it was a pretty great year at the movies, and last night was a pretty great night at the Oscars.
It really
So,
was.
thank you for joining us. Thank you two for joining me.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you both. And we're 2 weeks away from actually doing anything of substance, Rich. So we have in 2 weeks we have a little movie called Ghostbusters. You may or may not have heard of it.
Not familiar. Not
It was kind of a phenomenon in 1984. But we'll see everybody.
I wasn't.
I was 11 years before being a blip in, on the radar. Sorry.
In your daddy's eye, a gleam in your daddy's eye. Okay, thank you for joining us tonight. Go find some good movies to watch. There are plenty of them. Bye bye.
Mm-hmm.
Have a good night.
Bye.